Jermell Charlo drops Austin Trout twice en route to retaining his WBC light middleweight world title on a 12-round majority decision. I always suspected that this could turn out to be a bit of a tricky, awkward night for Jermell Charlo, simply because of Austin Trout's style. Styles make fights, and Jermell Charlo has never been a guy who likes to fight on the front foot, going forward, cutting the ring off, etc. That's never really been his forte. Jermell Charlo prefers it when guys come to him. He prefers it when you stand in front of him or when you come at him. But when he has to go looking for you, he tends to struggle. This is not the first time that he's struggled against the guy he had to go looking for. You go look at Jermell Charlo's resume, you go look back at some of his previous fights, and you'll see what I'm saying. When he has to go looking for you, he doesn't like it. He's not particularly good at cutting off the ring. His body work is inconsistent, and I'm talking about all the things that we saw in this fight as well as in previous fights. Inconsistent body work, and also one of the things I didn't like about Charlo in this fight is he was loading up way too much, particularly in the early rounds. The Charlos are very intense characters, very intense, and they fight in an intense way. Intense bursts of speed and power. They're like coiled springs, and that's exactly how Jermell was in this fight. It was like a coiled spring, wild swings in the early rounds especially, which were missing. Austin Trout actually gave him the first couple of rounds. Then in the third round, Charlo managed to catch Trout along the ropes and dropped him in the corner. It was a legitimate knockdown at first. I thought, was it a push or did he hit him around the back of the head? Because it happened so quick. And from the angle I was watching, you couldn't see whether it was a legit knockdown or not. But in the slow motion replay after the round, you could see it was a legitimate knockdown. So yeah, that evened things up for me. And then through the middle rounds, again, Austin Trout was doing some good work. But Charlo maybe, and some of the rounds were very difficult to score because there was very little between them. There was several swing rounds where neither man was landing any clean punches and neither man was really throwing that much. You just had Charlo edging his way forward and Trout moving side to side, popping out a jab. A lot of Trout's punches were blocked by Charlo, not only his jabs but even his uppercuts and straight shots and stuff like that were blocked. So it wasn't a particularly high scoring fight in terms of clean punches landed. So some of the middle rounds were close. They could have gone whatever way you want to score them. Then in the ninth round, there was another knockdown for Charlo. This time it was a shot kind of around the back of the head. It wasn't deliberate, but the shot did land almost around the back of Austin Trout's ear. And he went down, his knee touched the canvas, the referee gave him a count. So a little bit unfortunate with that knockdown. But he got back up, and after that, Charlo's strength and his youth really started to take its toll on Austin Trout. And for the final few rounds, Trout did not look particularly good. You could notice that he was fading, whereas Jermell Charlo still had a bit more pep in his step. So yeah, it went the distance. Charlo didn't look too clever in there. He's a big, strong guy. He's got the speed and the explosiveness, but he's never been particularly comfortable cutting the ring off, chopping a man down, wearing him down. That's not really Charlo's forte. His brother's better at doing stuff like that actually than Jermell is. So either way, he got the decision. In terms of the scoring, I mean, I wouldn't have scored the fight a draw. I thought Jermell Charlo won, particularly with the knockdowns. But as I say, there were a lot of swing rounds, so I'm not going to grumble too much. One of the judges had it like, what was it, 119, 109 or some madness like that. It wasn't that wide in Charlo's favor. I do think Charlo won, but that was a very wide scorecard there. So Charlo moves onwards and hopefully upwards. Maybe we can get this unification with Jarrett Hurd on, and obviously people are going to ask me, do I still think Jarrett Hurd would lose to Jermell Charlo? And the answer is yes, unless Jarrett Hurd has some kind of slick boxing style that he hasn't shown me. can Jarrett Hurd box at long range and move around and stuff like that? If he can, then maybe he can beat Jermell Charlo. But if Jarrett Hurd boxes the same way against Jermell Charlo that he boxed against Erislandy Lara and everybody else, where he's just marauding forward, throwing shots with reckless abandon, if he fights like that, that's playing into Jermell Charlo's hands, trust me. And Jermell Charlo will look a lot more impressive against a Jarrett Hurd who's fighting like that than he did against Austin Trout tonight. Trust me, people are going to look at that and say, oh, well, Jarrett Hurd managed to stop Trout. Charlo couldn't stop him. Styles make fights. Does Jarrett Hurd stop? Does Jarrett Hurd fight like Austin Trout? No. You see, you have to look at the styles of the fighters, and you have to look at their strengths and weaknesses. And Jermell, it's been long known that he is not particularly adept on the front foot. He prefers it when you stand in front of him or when you come at him. But when he has to go looking for you, he tends to struggle. And he did struggle against Austin Trout here with Trout's slickness. Trout actually outboxed him for various different stretches of the fight. But as I say, the knockdowns and Trout fading down the stretch, I think were enough to secure Jermell Charlo a legitimate victory. But stylistically, if Jarrett Hurd, unless Jarrett Hurd has some long-range boxing skills that I don't know about, then Jermell Charlo is going to beat him as far as I'm concerned. Because he likes it when guys come at him. He can open up, hooks, uppercuts, then very fast combinations, and he does have power. And he can go to the head and body. Yeah, that's the way I see it. Anyway, drop your comments in the comment section below. Let me know how you feel. Will the Jarrett Hurd Jermell Charlo fight happen? The unification? And there's also Munguia. He's a new champion at 154 pounds. So maybe he can fight one of these guys. I heard Jarrett Hurd in a recent interview saying that he's going to move up before long. He finds it very difficult to make 154. He had called out Kell Brook, but if that fight can't be made, he said he's thinking of moving up sooner rather than later. He also said he don't want the Erislandy Lara rematch. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens with Jarrett Hurd, and we'll see what happens with Jermell Charlo and Munguia. So, yeah, let me know what you feel in the comment section below, people. It's happening. I'm out.